once again for the renegade master. Back 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 once again for the renegade master.
Hello my renegades and welcome back. And what are we getting back into? You know what we're getting back into. We're getting back into Love is Blind season 6 and we are now on episode 10. But before we get into it, as I always ask, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button so you know I'm on and doing videos. And let's talk about this episode, shall we? So we need to know what happened next. After Laura decided that she was done, she walked out, and you see Jeremy now going and having a chat with his mother. Now my thing is this man don't explain nothing correctly. This man really does not give a shit. Like, Jeremy really does not give a shit that the fact that his fiance, his so-called fiance, has walked out on him, more than likely not come back home, and because of the fact that he decided to go and meet another woman and chat about shit or shoot the breeze or whatever. He's trying to say that it wasn't a sexual, there was no sexual anything that went on between them. But how is she supposed to know? At the end of the day, my guy, you shared your location to this girl. This girl decided to check where the fuck you was, and lo and behold, you were at the woman's yard. And Jeremy wasn't giving her the explanation that he should have been giving her at the end of the day. And he was talking to her, I'd have to say, very patronising. But when he's explaining it to his mum, this guy is like smiling and thinking this shit is unserious and unbothering. Because he turns around and he says, oh, he got himself into a little bit of trouble. Is that what we're calling it nowadays? You know, the sneaky, you got yourself into a little bit of trouble. Is that what we're calling it? Oh, God. And the way he explained it to his mum, it was like, it ain't nothing but a chicken wing. Like, he seriously was so passive with it. I was like, does this man even want Laura? Because I don't think, at this point, I really don't think it does. So his mum's basically told him that if it was her, he's lucky, because she would have been sat on the door, not the doorstep, but on the stairs, waiting for his ass to reach that door if it was her. So she's turned around to him and says, so now have I lost a daughter-in-law? And he says, more than likely, I don't know, but he's saying that he wants to try and work it out. No, Jeremy don't want to try and work it out, because if he really wanted to work things out with Laura, the first thing he would have done was go find his woman and have that talk with her. But obviously he did not. He did not in the slightest. He didn't even fight for the gal. But anyway, we shall move on. You see, Amy and Johnny, no situations there. He's just teaching her how to build shelves. So we'll move on from there. So you see Chelsea and Jimmy, they've gone out to meet Jimmy's family, and they're a nice enough bunch. But looking at Jimmy to looking at them, the computer is not computing. Like, it does not compute. He doesn't even look like he's part of that family. But hey, we shall move on. She's mama straight away. My baby, my baby. I was like, yeah, Jimmy's a mama's boy. That's why Jimmy carries on the way that he does sometimes, because Jimmy is a full-blown mama's boy. But there's something that happened in this episode that made me see Jimmy a little bit differently. That made me possibly be a little bit on Jimmy's side, because Chelsea's fucking crazy. Like, seriously, there's something wrong with Chelsea. There's something wrong with that girl right there, sir. Always, whenever they get round, people sing each other's praises, but Chelsea does it more so than Jimmy does it. So basically, she's talking about how open Jimmy is, how emotional he is with her, and I'm like, from what we've seen, I ain't seen that though, my love. Seriously, somebody tell me if they've seen Jimmy be like hella open and emotional with Chelsea, because me myself, I haven't seen it at all. She even talks about like the fact that he's a good communicator. Again, haven't seen it. Saw it a little bit in this episode, have to say, but others don't really see it. I really don't. That he's not a great communicator in any way, shape or form. So Donna's asking all the good questions. At the end of the day, she is asking all the good questions, and Donna is Jimmy's sister. So Chelsea's just talking about how they communicate so well together, and running down a list of good things that her and Jimmy are together. And I'm just like, am I watching something else here? Like seriously, when I sit here and watch this show, am I watching something else? Because where do they communicate so well to with each other with it, but unless they're screaming at each other? So mum talks about how she sees a connection between them, and I'd have to say I don't see it. Like I don't see. I really don't see a connection between them. I really don't. Something drastic will have to happen for me to see a connection between these two. To be honest with you, the only connection I see between any of these couples is between Amy and Johnny. That's the only true connection that I do see at this moment in time, and that can change at the drop of a motherfucking hat. You know what I mean? Especially when they get to the wedding bit, because you don't know what any of these fuckers are gonna say. But the rest of them should not be thinking about getting married in any way, shape, or form. Like any way, shape, or form. So then it moves to Adi and Clay gets to meet Adi's mother. Adi's mother's nice. It's a good looking woman. She a good looking woman. So Adi's explaining to her mom that she'll now get to meet Clay. She has not seen Clay since the afternoon before, so she's not seen Clay since 2 days ago, basically. That's what Adi is saying. And I'm just like, I don't understand why you're still there. I don't understand. Even though he's doing the work, putting in the work and doing what he's doing, the fact that this man still continues to stay this far apart away from the house, I don't understand it myself. So as soon as Clay walks in, they greet each other and everything like that. So as soon as Clay sits down, he then starts straight off the bat, after introduction, straight off the bat, not even into no level of conversation, just straight off the bat, starts getting into his schedule and what he does and all the this, that, and the other, and turning around and saying, throwing Adi out there like she doesn't really like my schedule. And I'm like, my guy, you didn't even give your ass a chance to hit the seat before you started in on that subject. So of course mum asked him what he does, and he went through his list of what he does and everything like that. So mum turned around to Adi and says, well, you cannot say that he's a lazy spouse, because you say you definitely didn't want somebody lazy. You wanted someone on your level, which is what you've got. And he said he feels bad about the schedule that he's on. And I'm like, Murray, that is a lie. That is a lie. From the way how Clay carried on in front of his mum and his sister, he knows full well he don't feel bad about his schedule. He's been used to that schedule, and that he's not used to actually working around someone being there. But that's something that he's got to learn if he really wants to have a steady marriage with someone. And for the win, Clay uses the same scripture that he used in the pods with Adi to explain to the mum exactly where he was. So yeah, that was a bonus point on Clay's part, because mum just fell, literally just fell the same way her daughter fell for him. Mum fell for him too. So mum thinks he's a rock. He's a good man. Mumsy thinks he's a good man, and that it was good of Adi to meet him sight unseen, because she never would have met him, and kept on singing Clay's praises even when Clay moved away from the table, and was all like, yes, he's a good one. He's a good one there. You need to fight for that one there. That's what she was saying to Adi. But she was also as well speaking to Adi on a level, because Adi got kind of upset in terms of and emotional in terms of what they were speaking about, because they were coming to the point that his sticking point, Clay's sticking point, is the experiences is around his parents' marriage. And that's where Clay's sticking point is. And as Adi's mom said to him, at the end of the day, that was your parents' marriage. That doesn't mean it has to be your marriage. So basically, you can't take on the sufferings that your parents had within their relationship, because it had nothing to do with you. This man still needs therapy though. He keeps talking about how he never did therapy, and I said, yeah, that's your downfall. That is Clay's downfall, the fact that he did not do therapy. That the way that man talks about his parents' marriage, issues with his dad, how he came to live with his dad and was involved in certain aspects of his dad's infidelities, and this man had no therapy, that would have impacted him somehow, especially when it came to relationships and how to treat a woman. Clay then starts getting a little bit negative in terms of what he saw around his parents relationship and hoping not to follow suit or follow that pattern. And I'm just thinking to myself, you know what, Clay, you're trying to set AD up here. That's what he's doing when he says stuff like that. When he harps with the negative, he's trying to set AD up. So if it happens, AD already knows that, you know what, this is what I said would happen. That's what Clay is doing. This is what I said would happen. Now we're just gonna have to deal with it. Or if you can't deal with it, you can fish or cut bait at the end of the day. But he's trying to preempt things because he's probably thinking in himself that this essentially is going to happen. It's going to happen. It happened with my parents. It's probably going to happen to me. But then saying that, don't forget, Clay is a grown-ass man. He would have had certain situations and certain relationships as he has gotten older. So how he maneuvered himself within those relationships will be quite telling in how he tries to maneuver himself within the relationship with AD. I just think he's giving off warning signs to AD, but AD is completely ignoring them. So at the end of that, Clay is basically saying that he will fight for Amber. And this is what I mean with Clay. He says all the right words, but to me, he doesn't show it in his actions. He does not show it in his actions towards AD in the slightest. So it's when Clay, as I call him, I've dubbed him the bobblehead. Because when Clay ain't got really nothing else to say, or he's listening to someone say something, like when AD's mum was saying that, you know, you can work things out together, Clay becomes a bobblehead. He'll just go, and even AD kind of picked up on it a little bit, because when AD's mum was talking at the end of that conversation and he was doing the bobblehead bit, she looked at him as if to say, are you sure? Are you sure in that? And he said yes, and he just kept on going, yes, with his bobblehead. And I was just like, no, what you really want to do, Clay, is say no. I don't see it with them. I really don't see it with them. I really don't. It literally is going to take me to the actual ceremonies before I actually believe that they will say yes to each other, like seriously. We see Amy and Johnny meet Amy's father, and she's definitely a daddy's girl. That was true. And he's very protective of his little girl, basically. So he talks about the process itself and how overwhelming it was. And he basically turned around and asked Johnny what his aspirations are. And as we know, Johnny would like to retire early. So it was a good conversation. At the end of the day, it really was a good conversation. They talk about the long-term commitment. He talked about the fact that, you know, he is going to be a stranger coming into this family, and he will rock the boat a little bit, but he's saying it will be in a good way at the end of the day. And then at the end of it, Johnny asks her dad for his daughter's hand in marriage. Now, all I would say, before I say what he said, all I say is, when you get into that territory, best believe you better be serious, because you don't ask for the parents' hand in marriage if you ain't serious about somebody. Because if you get up at that altar after you've done that and you say no, you're fucked up. You just fucked up to me. Like, absolutely fucked up to me. Because that shit to me is hella serious. You don't go and ask this man, bearing in mind he's serious about his child and he expects these types of things, to ask him for his daughter's hand in marriage. He's now said yes to you. Don't fuck it up, Johnny. Like, seriously, don't fuck it up. And I would suggest that anybody going into these shows, yeah, don't do that. If you go to an altar and you know you're going to say no, don't ask for the parents for their child's hand in marriage, because at that point it's just rude. Like, seriously rude, and it's not impressive. If you say that shit, you better mean that shit, is all I'm saying. We get to Jimmy and Chelsea, and they're actually, you know, vibing out at first, getting closer with each other and just chilling and everything like that. Then Chelsea starts getting on his ass. So basically, Chelsea starts to get mad because Jimmy decided to go out for a friend's birthday. But she's hella pissed at first, because as soon as she's saying the camera people left the place, he was already dressed and out, but didn't ask her to come with him. Jimmy did say he did. Jimmy said he did ask her to come. She declined, and then she was already set and comfortable, so he went out. So she was getting mightily pissed, really, at the fact that he'd gone out with his friends. I think his two girlfriends were there, or the one girlfriend was there, and some other fraternity friends. But I kept on saying is, nah, there's more to it than that, because she was getting het up and more het up as time went on. And I thought, what is wrong with this girl? What is honestly wrong with Chelsea? Why is she getting so pissed at the fact that this man went out on a night out to be with his friends on a friend's birthday? Why is she getting so pissed like this? Because she's trying to say some of the girls from the pods were there. And I was like, oh, she thinks Jessica was there. That's the only thing. I was like, at this point, that's the only thing it could have been, that she honestly thinks Jessica was there, and this is why she's going off in the way that she's going off. But all I'm gonna say is, with Chelsea's behavior, her behavior gives me full-on red flags, like full-on red flags. And if I was Jimmy, I'd start looking for the exits, because when she turns around and then says, well, who were you out with? He was like, yeah, I'm not having this conversation. And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, then were you with Jessica? Is she going to ask you straight out, or is she going to keep going around the reeking, blaming you for X, Y, and Z, and starting to take the piss with you at the end of the day? So Jimmy gets up and goes and brushes his teeth. Error, because Chelsea then gets up and actually follows him. So now he's stuck in a confined area with this woman caterwauling in his ears like a demented squirrel. That's the only thing I could explain it as. She's like a demented squirrel, literally jumping on this man, like absolutely jumping on this man. She's saying, I'm really in the process of this, and I'm really diving to this man, and saying that Jimmy couldn't give two shits. I was just like, this just screams control. This just screams, I need to have control of everything that you do outside of me. If you are doing things outside of me, you need to tell me what it is, because I need to come with you. This girl ain't going to give this man no space in the slightest. I'm literally not going to go into everything that they argued about, but all I kept on thinking is, what is it that she wants? Like, honestly and truly, what is it that Chelsea wants? What does this girl want? Because in the next breath, she's telling people, oh, they communicate so well, oh, they're so good together, she loves him, and then she does this. They had a good day. They started off that conversation nice, and then Chelsea just went in for the kill, man. Like, fully in for the kill. And I'm just like, right, so this is how we see her insecurity start to manifest itself, yeah? Like, full on manifest itself, because she's painted a scenario in her head and how things had gone on. Nobody's told her this shit, because she's trying to say a girl called Mackenzie from the pod has told her this shit, in the fact that Jimmy's out, why are you not here? And she's thinking it's embarrassing that she's not with her man. You don't have to be with him everywhere he motherfucking goes. Does he have to freaking, like, human centipede you onto his motherfucking ass? You don't need to be everywhere he is. Like, seriously, this is what trust is about. And if you have no trust, you have no relationship. That's how I see it. So she's literally going off on this man, and then turns around and asked him if he was with Jessica, and he said no. But she didn't believe him, because she'd made up a scenario in her head. And even Jimmy pointed out the fact that you don't even believe what you're saying. You are just trying to dig now. You're trying to dig to get information that you are not going to get, because it did not happen. Jessica was not there. He was out with his friends and his frat. So then in the next breath, she starts screaming at him, as I said, like a demented squirrel, and basically telling him in his face, you fucked that girl, as in his friend. And he literally was, Jimmy was livid, because he was like, at the end of the day, it's about respect. He said, I told you that in confidence, away from the cameras, because I didn't want my business out there. And I told you that in order for you to trust me, especially around my friend, because she's my friend, and it was a one-time deal way before they even fucking met. So how she's getting mad about it, I don't know. As again, the insecurities of this girl. And he's saying, and she's like, oh, but I know, and trying to claw that bit back. And then he turns around and he says to her that his friend is a good person. I even took you to meet my friends. And she was like, yeah, I know, but I do love her. And I'm like, no, you don't, because you was quick to throw what he told you in confidence back in his rotted face, just so you could try and have a ha I got you moment and make yourself feel better. And this is at the point where Chelsea starts to feel rather fucking like, woe is me, I'm the victim, you've done this to me. And then yes, just before that, before Jimmy does go into the room to start brushing his teeth, because this is the bit that I forgot to put out there, she turned around, she wants Jimmy to take a step back from his friends. If that's not controlling, I don't know what is. Like, seriously, if that's not trying to isolate somebody into your own little bubble, I don't know what is. So Jimmy says to her that I've told you before that I would take a step back, but he's not the type of guy to go out all the time. She's going on like he goes out all the time when he doesn't. So he turned around and he says, do you want me to take a step back from my friends? She said, yeah. He says, I ain't gonna do that. And then that's when he walks away, and that's why she then follows him into the bathroom and corners him, basically. I'm just like, oh. The whole thing, I have to say, made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. It made me feel a little bit uncomfortable for Jimmy. Because I'm like, I don't know what the fuck she's going to do. Is she the type of person that once she gets frustrated enough, she will strike you? Because that's how she was. Yeah. I was quite concerned for Jimmy's safety at that point, and that's why I said at the beginning, I have to say that my observations started to switch, because Chelsea and him, no, just no. Jimmy tells Chelsea that this conversation is completely unreasonable, and she's freaking having a meltdown for something that she built up in her head. And I was like, yeah, she's having a meltdown because she believed that Jessica and Jimmy meet up and never, that Jessica was in that pod of girls and never, and it wasn't information that was given to her at all. She wasn't given that information. She just heard the girls from the pod and automatically assumed Jessica would be there when she wasn't. So now she then sits there like a what the fuck have I done face on her lips, basically. And I was just like, at this point, this girl needs to get a grip. Like, she seriously needs to get a grip for real. So Jimmy then reads Chelsea. And I'm like, you met this man's family. Like, you met this man's family. You sang his praises up in there. And all the while, you had this bubbling. So Jimmy said to her, straight up, if you think I'm full of shit every time I tell you how I feel, then I don't care to be with you either. So Chelsea kept on pushing this man and pushing this man and pushing this man. Jimmy says to her straight out, do you believe I love you? She says, I don't know. He says, well, that's it then. At the end of the day, that's it then. Chelsea's there screaming it at the top of her voice. She ain't listening to a word this man's saying. She is not listening to a word this man's saying. She's not thinking about the fact that Jimmy's already got 1 foot out of the door right now because of the shit that she's saying right now. Chelsea turns around and says, I'm just worried about the fact that we are supposed to be getting married in 2 weeks and we don't know what the fuck we're going to be doing about that. And I'm like, my girl, you might not be getting married at all at this, right? You might not even make it to the wedding dress fitting. What the hell? I mean, you need to sort your shit out. So after when Jimmy asked Chelsea, like, directly, do you think I love you? She said, I don't know. He was like, well, it's not going to work. And like, Chelsea's then sitting there, and then Chelsea gets up, and this is what I mean about the toxicness of this girl. Like, she's absolutely red flagging it all over the place. She goes, please don't leave, and then tells him to stop. And I'm like, she enjoys this shit. Chelsea absolutely enjoys this shit. She loves to stir it the way she's stirring it with this man, to get a full-on blowout, to get to the precipice of him saying, I'm gone, to then start turning all lovey-dovey. That's all I can say. That is all I can say at this point. That's all I can say. So after that, it moves to Adi and Clay. So you see Adi and Clay in the kitchen. Adi's tidying up. Clay's on his lap, well, finishing up a business call. So then she's talking about her schedule and her sister's flying in. So then Adi starts to show him the colour scheme for the wedding, and she then talk about the marriage license. And you know, Clay gets involved in all of that to the point where Clay, I notice when he starts to lead into negativity, he will go all the way around the motherfucking reeking, but lead it with sass. That's what he'll do. He'll do a lot of jokes mixed with a little bit of knowledge. So, point in case when he turns around and he says to her, some people say it's so easy to get married, so tough to get out of it. I was like, well, that's an odd statement to make. I mean, just lean into that, why don't you? I don't understand why you would say something like that, especially when you are deciding whether you're going to get married or not. Anyway, so then Clay then leads into the fact that his dad cheated a lot, which we already know about. And then he went into the soliloquy of he doesn't want to be in a situation that he would ever cheat. What would that situation be? What would that situation be that would make you think you are going to step out on AD? And this is why I'm saying this man is just breathing what he's possibly going to do into existence to make AD aware of the fact that he may do these things within this marriage or any type of persuader relationship that they may have. So AD turns around and says to him, is that what you think you would cheat? Clay never answers with a direct question. Like when AD asks, coming from his mouth, when situations come from his mouth and AD asks him a question coming from what he's just put out into the atmosphere, he never answers her directly at all. So basically he started to compare himself to other people on previous shows. So he was watching previous Love is Blind. So him saying in the pods that he's never watched the show turned out to be a motherfucking lie. You knew it was lying. Anybody who's been on Love is Blind has probably watched the past seasons of Love is Blind, so they know exactly what to expect. And so did Clay. He turned around and he said that he was watching all these people in past relationships and they were so ready, they wanted to be in love, they wanted the marriage, they were so mature with it. He doesn't believe that he's mature. No shit, Sherlock. I don't believe you're mature enough for marriage. I don't even think you're mature enough for a relationship. Not without a little bit of work anyway. Like seriously, he's saying that he does not believe that he's there yet. So he made this whole speech and basically at the end of it said that he didn't want to seem like he was backing out on her. Unlike your whole speech was literally you backing out on her. So AD again props him up, tells him that she's not afraid. And sometimes I wish that AD would stop pandering to this man. Like seriously, stop pandering to this man. Let this man say what he means and do what he means at the end of the day, because that's not what he's doing. He talks a good game, but his actions don't say what he means in the slightest. Because I'm kind of thinking that this man really don't want to get married, but he's testing the waters to say if he said no up at that altar, would AD still date him? That's what he was testing with that conversation, and it came out within the conversation where he was saying about why does the date have to dictate the relationship. So I'm like, hold on. It's called Love is Blind for a reason. You know, the premise of the show is to actually go to this altar and say yes, yay or nay at the end of the day. And even AD said she's okay with a yes or no at the altar with, but what she's not okay with is being a long-term fiance, because at the end of the day they made a commitment in them pods, which is very, very true. So she said if you were thinking that you will get up there and say no and that we'll date afterwards, that's not going to happen. And I was like, okay, at least AD put him on notice at last, like what she's going to accept and what she isn't going to accept. So Clay just looked at her and said, okay, so it's kind of all or nothing situation. Yes, my guy, it is an all or nothing situation. So you better get your motherfucking head in the game, maturity or not, my dear. Make your mind up, Clay, make your mind up. Then it goes back to Chelsea and Jimmy, and you see her walking back into the home. Jimmy's already in the home, comfortable, relaxed. She looks hella sheepish, like hella sheepish. So she comes in, she sits down, he says, you're okay? And she's like, yeah. And then she has this look of trying to be low-level upset, trying to paint herself as this timid little character. You can't Once you let that screaming banshee of a squirrel out of the box, my love, you can't put it back in. You can't put it back in, no. Everybody don't see who you is. You hear me? And Jimmy better take heed of what he saw that night, because that in essence is Chelsea. That in essence is Chelsea. That's a part of her personality. So Jimmy was stating that he couldn't have been more sure that she was going to be his wife, and afterwards, after that, had their worst fight yet. He feels that he's not able to trust Chelsea's judgment anymore. He's saying that he wanted to show her love, he wanted to take her home, but he honestly felt betrayed that night by her. And he says that at this point, he's saying he's not going to get married. He's done. And I'm like, at that point, hallelujah, hallelujah, praise the Lord. He's done. It was the best decision ever. But no, it didn't stop there, did it? No. So Chelsea is trying to be all meek and mild. She never accepts full responsibility for how she acts. She always got to throw Jimmy in, like, well, you did that too, and then I did this, and da-da-da-da-da. I just have no words for her. Have no words for her at all, because at the end of the day, she created a situation that Jimmy had to deal with. Jimmy had to deal with the situation she created. So for her to then turn around and say, well, you shouted this, you said this and that to me, in response to the fuck shit you were saying to him, my love. So don't put everything on this man. Take responsibility for your outed actions. So she turns around, and this is why I said that Chelsea loves this shit, because she turned around and she says, I felt him more in love with you yesterday than I ever have. Someone needs to get an exorcism on this girl, because she ain't right. She ain't right. She's not right. So this is why I'm saying she loves that. She loves the goading of the person to see how far she's able to take them before she can try and bring it back, because this is her wiggling way of trying to bring it back to where she wants it to be, and also in order to get what she wants. And she wants Jimmy not to go out with her friends as much. We'll see if that happens. We will see if that happens. So basically, in the end, Jimmy decided that he still wants to give it a go with this girl. And this is why I said I can't with these people. Mirati can't with these people, man. None of them want love. They don't understand the meaning of the word love. Seriously, well and truly. I don't think anybody does, really, unless you really felt that all-encompassing love. But with these, except for, I suppose, Amy and Johnny, just no. They shouldn't be together. Like, honestly, shouldn't be together. So then we get to this whole group meetup, and Clay's working, and so AD is speaking to the girls and basically talking about this scrunchie that she got. She calls it something completely. I've never heard the scrunchie pronounced the way that AD pronounces it. Don't ask me to repeat it, because me can't remember, but it doesn't sound scrunchy-licious at all. So whoever has a scrunchie is to speak. So it was given to Laura, and basically Laura talks about Jeremy, and basically said that her and Jeremy ain't spoken in 4 days. She moved out of the home. He hadn't contacted her. She's saying he hadn't really texted her. Basically, what she's pissed at is the fact that, yes, Sarah Ann did this fuck shit, yeah, but it's Jeremy that owed her. And it's true, because Jeremy had the relationship with Laura. Jeremy was the one that picked Laura. Jeremy was the one that literally said, will you marry me to Laura, not to Sarah Ann? And we'll get to Sarah Ann. We will get to Sarah Ann, because, yeah, I don't like her at all, one iota. I never really liked Laura, but me not like Sarah Ann in the slightest. So Laura's basically shouting off at the spout, saying she believes that Jeremy is fake as shit, and that he never cared for her, and is, rather than dealing with his feelings, he should have picked Sarah Ann, but he did not. He picked her, and rather than dealing with those feelings from that, he fucked her over. And then, of course, in walks Jeremy. And I'm like, he didn't even look Laura's way in the slightest, but Laura kept on eyeballing him. And I was just like, Do you know what? This is pathetic. This is absolutely used to a grown fucking adults. This is absolutely motherfucking pathetic. At the end of the day, we all know your relationship is done. Gyal took off her ring and everything. So from when a gal took her ring off and she never put it back on, that relationship is done. Like in Laura's eyes, that relationship is done. In Jeremy's eyes, that relationship was done the time he met Sarah Ann. The time that Sarah Ann DM'd Jeremy, the relationship between him and Laura was done. That's what I'm saying. It was done there. Around, and Jeremy's basically saying that she wants to try and paint me as this bad guy. And I'm like, but you are the bad guy. You are the bad guy. Because he's trying to say that he tried to put in the work by trying to woo Laura back. He was trying to get her address details to send her flowers. She didn't want the flowers. And Laura being Laura, she was rude with that response. You know she was rude with that response. Even though she denied it when she's speaking to Jeremy, you know she was rude with that response. So he's basically saying, how in the hell is he supposed to try and fight for something like that at the end of the day? And I thought, you have the fucking audacity to say what you're saying after you did what you did, and you think Laura should not be angry about it. My guy, what planet you living on? Because it ain't planet Earth. And this is why I said I can't with these people. This is why I said I really, really well and truly I can't with these people. So Jimmy then starts opening up about his shit with Chelsea, and then, oh my lord, in comes Trevor. And you know what, looking at Trevor in a big bright light, yeah, he might be kind of attractive, but he ain't all that. He ain't all that. Chelsea's eyes nearly bug out of her rotted head, because Trevor is the type of person that she would normally go for. And then in comes Jessica and Mackenzie, and I thought, shit, the producers knew what the fuck they were doing. The producers knew what the fuck they were doing with this little playlist, didn't they? One thing that I do want to point out is how Laura can really get essentially mad at Sarah Ann. I know it hurts in her situation because she's hella pissed at it. When she's literally plotting with Jessica in how to go and speak to Jimmy and put her views across to Jimmy. So I don't understand how she can get really that mad in that situation when you, this next gal, yeah, you're friends with Chelsea, but yet you're plotting with Jessica in how she can maneuver herself with Jimmy. How does that work? Like, how does that honestly work? And then in the next breath, Laura's gonna smile in Chelsea's face like it ain't nothing. Jessica took Jimmy for a chat. This is after, like, she was walking around that place and opening up her top and showing off her, you know, her goods and all this, that and the other, and Jimmy was looking. That man was looking. You can't say he wasn't looking, he was looking. So Jimmy says she left him with a lot of emotions and that he's still attracted to her. And Chelsea's sitting there watching them go off to wherever it is they're going to sit down and have this conversation with. And Chelsea's sitting there saying, oh, I'm uncomfortable. And I'm like, please don't be uncomfortable in that sense. Yes, you can have your uncomfortability, but when Chelsea says that she feels uncomfortable, that usually means that Jimmy's going to get it in the motherfucking ear. That usually means the screaming squirrel is going to come out. Jimmy's saying to Jessica that he has no insecurities whatsoever now. So she's asked, did she meet your family? And I'm like, Jessica's not asking that from the place of sincerity at the end of the day. She is not interested in all of that, really. She's just trying to check and see how deep the connection is between Chelsea and Jimmy. That's what she's trying to do. Even with the whole, you know, she's a good person, you better treat Chelsea good because she is a good friend of mine. All of that is just a weeding technique. It's a weeding technique to find out where the frick these two are in your relationship. So basically she turns around and she says to Jimmy, like, I don't want you to look at it as though it's advice from an ex. And he turns around and says, but are you an ex though? And I'm like, it's like that, is it, Jimmy? It's like that, is it, Jimmy? Are you an ex though, is it, Jimmy? So what is she, Jimmy? Please tell me, what is Jessica to you? So he then turns around and says that he gets nervous around her, but he then said that he felt pressured by her to be with her in that sense. And I was like, it was hella facts that he was silent when he read that letter, and that's what Jessica pulled up. That the fact that she poured her heart out in this letter, he'd read it and then was silent afterwards. And then she talked to him about how she felt when she heard he'd said to Chelsea in the next breath that he loved her. So basically she gave him the grace that he was looking for. And she turned around and I thought, here it is. And she goes, you never did say flat out how you felt about me. So I was like, you know what, Jimmy, that's the key for you not to answer a direct question like you normally do. Like, leave that, let it fly over your head, or say something completely non-relevant to that freaking question. But he doesn't. So he turned around and he says, in reality, you are still my number one. But Jess terrifies him. Oh, I said all along, that is why he didn't go for Jessica. He went for the easy option, which was Chelsea, because Chelsea does not challenge him in the way that Jessica would challenge him in that sense. And that's why he went for Chelsea. I still think he made the wrong move with Chelsea, but hey ho, there we go. But that is where that episode ended, and I'll be back very soon with the next episode. As I always say, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button when you know I'm on and doing videos, and I'll be back on your screens very soon. Peace out.